listeners. My name is Gustavo, and along my labor trajectory, I have executed numerous tasks of quotation and construction of works and industrial assemblies in the site of the works with specialists' offices and assistants. In this audio, which is the first of a series of podcasts, I will define in a generic way criteria on how to quote and execute construction works and industrial assemblies. First of all, I would like to point out that the term works here is taken as an expression that encompasses a new industrial works, the refurbishment or repair of an existing facility, the provision of equipment or service. In order for a works to exist, a procuring entity is needed that has the need to construct the works and that proposes that with the information provided by the procuring entity can estimate a price for these works in time. The procuring entity of the work can be a public company, mixed, private, a group of people, or even an individual. The procuring entity with more or less detail must provide the proponent with the appropriate tender documentation reflecting the scope and type of work to be performed, along with the quality and safety requirements to be respected. It must establish the times of execution of the work and indicate the requirements to be met by the tenderer to enter the bidding process, and the requirements that the tenderer must satisfy if he becomes a contractor. In the tender documents, they also inform about the administrative and legal clauses that will govern the commercial relationship, and about the deadlines for certifications of progress and forms of payment foreseen for the works. The procuring entity delivers to the proposers the tender document that will govern the works in question, in order that they quote with complete information and on equal terms. Bidders must submit bids in a timely manner. It is important to point out that the tender document is the document that takes precedence over any other in the commercial relationship between the procuring entity becoming the commitment and the tenderer becoming the contractor. The procuring entity allows the bidder during the quotation process to formulate queries which, once answered, are communicated to the rest of the bidders. Here begins for each bidder the arduous task of quoting with precision or to present a price that covers the economic needs to execute the works. If the proposer makes a mistake and quotes a low price and has the misfortune of being awarded the work and becomes a contractor, he will quickly go from the initial euphoria to frustration when the financial and economic problems begin. Depending on the size of the diversion and the contractor's financial back, the contractor may become financially bankrupt. If, on the other hand, the price is high, the quotation will surely be discarded by the procuring entity. This implies not only the loss of a job opportunity but also consumption of resources and wasted work hours to budget with a very high price. These increases the proponent's general expenses. In the two situations described, the commercial relationship with the client suffers. The conclusion of all this is that it is fundamental to quote the work with a price close to what it costs to execute it, so it is necessary to budget with precision. Within any quotation, a determining item that is necessarily to evaluate carefully is the estimation or calculation of the direct man-hours to consume to execute the work. I emphasize that the hours or fractions of hours that are consumed to execute a task are the same or practically the same one that if that task is repeated with workers of similar competence. The consumption of labor to perform an activity is practically the same for workers of similar competence anywhere in the world. This is true for tasks that are executed under the same conditions as those existing at the time the yield data were taken. I call these conditions standard conditions. When working in a condition different from the standard, it is necessary to apply factors that take into account these deviations and correct the total hours. The records of the man-hours for executing each of the tasks are grouped in tables. We emphasize that these tables are only valid when the records are obtained from measurements performed on the job site. With this, we finish this audio. In the next podcasts, to be published on a weekly basis, each of these concepts will be further developed.